In this video, we'll take a look at some of the social learning features in Guroo Academy. These can be used to sustain momentum throughout the course, encourage networking, and allow people to stay in touch after the course. To access social learning, head into your course, then to Edit View and Program Overview. In this section, you'll see a tab called Social Learning. To set up social media groups, you first enable the program group, and then you can select from LinkedIn or WhatsApp. Your selection here will depend on the course itself, who your learner profile is, and what you want to get out of the group. LinkedIn is a good place for networking, building connections with other learners in the program. And WhatsApp is best for real-time, quick contact with other people during the course. Once you've enabled the program group and selected your platform, you'll need to create a link. For LinkedIn, this can be done by setting up a private group via the LinkedIn website. For WhatsApp, you can create a group and provide a link and/or a QR code. Add in a short message explaining the context of the group and how you'd like participants to interact with each other. Here I've put some suggestions, and you may also want to articulate what role course facilitators will be playing in the group. Is it expected that you'll be involved in discussions, or is this a place for learners to network themselves? The other type of group you can enable is the alumni group. While a program group is designed for a particular cohort, an alumni group is useful when you want all participants of a certain course to be able to network and interact with one another. For example, I've created an alumni group called Marketing Analytics Alumni. You can have this on LinkedIn or WhatsApp. My suggestion, if it's for ongoing networking, is that LinkedIn is probably a good place to do this. You can set when you'd like the alumni group to be available, whether that's straight away, after the program ends, once the learner has completed the program, or after a specific date. Add in your alumni group link, which you'll create via the LinkedIn website, and create a message explaining the purpose of the group. If you're using WhatsApp, you can also include a QR code. If you'd like to make this group available to other programs, you can also add it to the existing group list. This means that for future cohorts, you'll be able to add them to the same alumni group. To use an existing alumni group, just click on the Existing tab and then select the relevant group from the drop-down. Once you've got your program groups enabled, you can display these via the program onboarding. Under the Onboarding tab, head down to Social Media Group, and you can turn this on. Next, we'll take a look at groups. You may wish to split your course cohort into smaller groups, whether that's for projects, networking, study, whatever purpose. To do that, head to Program Settings. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see Group Work Settings. You can have multiple different types of groups in your program. For example, you might have a networking group where learners are put into certain groups, and then they're put into different groups again for a particular project. As you can see here, I've currently got a group type called Activity Groups. You can toggle on or off whether you'd like to allow participants to edit the group name and whether facilitators can manage groups. Pop in a purpose or description for your group. And then you also have the option of auto group allocation. There are a couple of options for how you allocate your participants using the auto group allocation. The first is maximum participants per group. I've set a maximum of 4 participants per group, and I've got 10 participants in my course. That means that the total number of groups would be 3. I can run the allocation, which will allocate participants to the group based on the maximum participants. The other option we have is selecting the number of groups. So if I'd like my participants evenly distributed across 3 groups, for example, I'd end up with 2 groups of 3 and 1 group of 4. To view groups, head to the Deliver tab. Under the Manage Cohorts tab, you'll see my group type here, Activity Groups. This tab shows me how learners are allocated to each group. You can edit your auto allocation settings from here, and you also can add groups. If you have a large volume of learners or a lot of groups, you may wish to search by the group name, the participant name, or their email address. Down here, you can see how many total members are in each group, how many sessions have been scheduled for that group, which we'll come to in a moment, their completed sessions, any tasks they're involved in, and what the status of those tasks are. Using the three buttons on the right-hand side, you've got a few options. You can rename the group. You can view who's in the group. From this tab, you can reassign participants if you'd like them to be in a different group, or you can unassign them from groups entirely. Heading back to the group list, drop down again. You can also view group sessions and group tasks. Lastly, you have the option to delete the group. Now that we've created our groups, there are a few different things you can do with them. Let's head back to the Edit tab and we'll take a look at group tasks. This activity here is currently an individual activity where learners have to introduce themselves. We do have the option to make this a group activity. As you can see here, I've got my group type, activity groups, or I can select a new group type. If I set this task to be completed by activity groups, that means that the task will be submitted once on behalf of each group. Under the Social Learning tab, you can also enable group discussion. This enables the group to interact on the task. You can also create group sessions. For example, a group webinar. Currently, this webinar is set up for all participants to complete. But what if we were to set it up so that each activity group attended the webinar at a different time? Currently, this webinar is available to all learners in the program. Let's change this to specific learners and then create an adaptive filter. Learners with specific groups. I'm going to select activity groups and make this available to group 1. This means that this particular webinar will only be available to those learners in group 1. You can then go ahead and set other webinars at different times for your other groups in the program. Just like I've used an adaptive filter to show this webinar to only a certain group, you can do this with any section. For example, if I had different content for each group related to this section, Marketing Basics, I can choose to show different content to different groups. I'm going to change this to specific learners and then create that adaptive filter. I can choose to share this filter with other sections in the program as well. For example, if I create a group 1 filter and I choose only group 1. That would mean that this section is only available to learners in group 1. This is particularly handy when you need to provide different content, such as case studies, project information, and so on, to different groups. Another area where you may like to use groups is for posts and announcements. When you add a post or announcement, you have the option to post to everyone or to select one of your groups. If I make a post and announcement to group 2, this means that only members of group 2 will receive that post or announcement. Once again, very handy for things like networking and managing project work. The other area where you may like to include some social learning is via the task feeds and discussion. Head to configuration and make sure you've got the task feed and discussion feeds turned on. You may wish to allow learners to create their own discussions. If you leave this toggled off, coordinators and facilitators can create discussions for learners to comment on. From the learner point of view, if you go to the Learn tab, they'll be able to see any completed tasks or discussions over on the left in the Feeds tab. And that's an overview of the different social learning features in Academy.